So, Sophie Cunningham, it happened again. The WNBA have fined her again.
Well, the WNBA fined me for
The question now shaking the entire basketball world is simple. If players cannot openly speak the truth about what happens on the court without risking an entire game's paycheck, then what is this front office truly defending? Is it protecting the real integrity of women's basketball, or simply preserving the delicate image of corporate leadership? Those unfiltered remarks exploded across the media room, creating major shockwaves throughout the sports world and igniting a historic institutional battle. Welcome back to the ultimate destination for passionate women's basketball fans, where we don't just glance at polished box scores, but dig deeper into the hidden conflicts, front office inconsistencies, and administrative decisions shaping the athletes we watch every night. The situation unfolding right now has completely challenged the usual standards of professional sports, leaving supporters stunned. As the league office pushes for complete control through a strict financial punishment system, the full timeline of this response deserves close attention. It started with a $25,000 fine on a tense Tuesday morning after heated post-game comments about officiating differences. When players refused to stay silent, the penalty quickly increased to a shocking $50,000 administrative fine within 48 hours, with officials pointing to unclear rules about protecting the league's reputation. Then, in a move that surprised many across the sports world, the commissioner's office delivered a historic $100,000 joint fine while warning of possible additional suspensions if players continued discussing internal league issues. Before we uncover how these penalties connect to a much bigger strategy, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and join the growing community of fans who believe the real voices of the game. When compared with other major sports organizations, the seriousness of this crackdown becomes even more noticeable. The NBA, for example, regularly releases last 2-minute reports, admits officiating mistakes, and promotes transparency, while leading European soccer leagues allow strong debates without threatening their biggest stars financially. Instead of encouraging that same openness, the WNBA front office has chosen to punish public honesty with a massive $100,000 financial penalty while appearing far more forgiving towards serious physical incidents during games. Recent controversial moments where players were pushed out of bounds or involved in dangerous non-basketball plays often resulted in only regular fouls or limited league responses, creating a striking contrast in how different situations are handled. The growing frustration across the basketball world comes down to one major question. Why is an athlete's honest criticism treated as a danger to the sport, while serious physical risks faced by players are often dismissed without the same urgency? Fans around the globe are refusing to accept this contradiction quietly, with online petitions gaining thousands of supporters in a matter of hours and social media campaigns demanding immediate accountability. What league officials failed to recognize is the classic Streisand effect. By attempting to silence discussions through a historic $100,000 fine, they have only pushed millions of fans to examine the exact issues they wanted hidden. Now the biggest question remains. If more internal documents reveal that executives prioritized controlling the public narrative over protecting players, will the commissioner be forced to reverse this massive penalty? Or are we approaching the first major player-driven boycott in modern women's sports? The pressure becomes even greater when this controversy is connected to the multi-billion-dollar broadcasting negotiations happening behind closed doors, where networks are reportedly watching how instability could affect future audience numbers. Instead of empowering its biggest stars, the league appears to be treating them like performers following a strict corporate script rather than elite athletes with independent voices. How long can a professional league continue punishing the very players responsible for its historic growth? Share your thoughts in the comments. Let us know whether you believe this $100,000 fine crossed the line, and remember to like, share, and subscribe for more discussions about the future of the game. To understand the seriousness of this situation, we have to examine the deeper layers of concern coming from the league's leadership. Why did the commissioner decide this was the moment to create such a strong financial barrier around Sophie and Caitlin Clark? For months, analysts have highlighted the growing difference between the image the league promotes publicly and the way it handles internal issues. Officials want fans to focus on rising ticket sales, packed arenas, record merchandise success, and new corporate partnerships. But they often overlook the fact that the players themselves are carrying much of the responsibility behind this cultural explosion. When Sophie stepped in front of the cameras and refused to follow the expected public relations message, she exposed a carefully protected system. She was not simply questioning one referee decision or one missed call. She was challenging the larger philosophy behind game management, public narratives, and the way certain players receive protection while others remain vulnerable. The first $25,000 fine was not just a normal disciplinary action. It was a quick response meant to show the rest of the league that complete agreement was expected. However, when Caitlin Clark supported those same concerns and added her worldwide influence to the conversation, officials realized the warning had not worked. The move to increase the penalty to $50,000 within only 48 hours showed an organization desperately trying to contain growing frustration from its own athletes. These escalating financial punishments also raise questions about their effect inside the locker room environment. By raising the punishment so dramatically in less than 48 hours, the commissioner's office appeared determined to create an atmosphere of fear, hoping the financial consequences would pressure players into quickly backing down. When that public reversal never happened, the conflict reached an entirely new level with the historic $100,000 joint institutional fine. This situation has moved far beyond simple post-game comments or maintaining professional etiquette. It has become a larger battle over who controls the future narrative of women's basketball. The structure behind these penalties suggests a carefully planned effort to discourage criticism before major television rights discussions begin. League executives understand that broadcast partners prioritize stability and consistency, looking for a clean product that can be presented easily to family-focused sponsors. By delivering such a massive financial punishment, the front office seems determined to show outside partners that any internal challenge will be controlled immediately, even if the consequences fall on the very stars responsible for record-breaking attention. The result is a difficult environment where players may feel forced to measure every word, constantly worrying about the consequences of honest conversations with the media. Imagine competing at the highest level while knowing that one thoughtful answer to a reporter could instantly take away a significant part of your yearly income. The imbalance becomes even more noticeable when compared with how the league has historically addressed physical safety concerns. There have been moments where dangerous plays created real risks for athletes, but resulted in little or no serious punishment, with certain aggressive actions being described as simply part of intense competition. This creates a troubling contrast. The league appears ready to defend its public image from criticism while showing hesitation when it comes to protecting players from dangerous situations on the court. The message being received is clear: players are expected to sacrifice their bodies for the game, but their voices must remain controlled by the brand. However, what officials underestimated was the determination of today's sports fans. Once details of the $100,000 fine became public, supporters quickly organized across online platforms, creating visible records of every controversial decision and demanding greater transparency. This movement moved beyond traditional sports coverage, making it harder for the situation to be reduced or reshaped by official statements. The front office may have expected fans to simply move on to the next big highlight, but instead, supporters are demanding a deeper review of how disciplinary decisions are made. This reaction perfectly reflects the Streisand effect. The attempt to hide internal conflict has only expanded the conversation worldwide, turning a disagreement over officiating into a major discussion about athlete freedom and organizational accountability. Meanwhile, emerging internal reports suggest growing concern within the league about the long-term impact this aggressive approach could have on relationships with players. If future disclosures show that leadership valued public relations control over fair treatment, the commissioner's position could face serious pressure. Will the front office eventually reduce these historic penalties to avoid a major conflict with the Players Association, or will it continue forward with this strict approach and risk a player-led disruption that could affect the entire season? The financial consequences of this dispute extend well beyond the fines themselves. The multi-billion-dollar broadcasting negotiations currently underway represent a crucial moment for the sport's future, and networks are evaluating those deals based on continued growth, which depends heavily on the popularity and participation of stars like Caitlin Clark and Sophie. The possibility of players collectively challenging this corporate restriction could create a level of uncertainty that dramatically changes the future value of major broadcast agreements. Behind closed doors, network executives may be questioning whether committing billions of dollars makes sense for a league facing open conflict with its biggest stars. The front office is effectively creating pressure within a situation it helped build, assuming players will prioritize immediate financial consequences over their broader rights and long-term influence. This entire controversy represents a larger example of the challenges that have followed women's sports leadership for decades. For years, athletes were expected to simply appreciate the chance to compete while accepting limited resources, lower pay, and little administrative support without speaking out. However, today's generation of women's basketball players operates with a completely different understanding. They recognize their economic importance, their cultural impact, and their right to fair workplace treatment. They are no longer willing to remain silent inside a system that views them as easily replaceable pieces of a corporate structure. The comparison to a Victorian-era censorship system feels especially relevant because the front office appears to be attempting to control the voices of independent, ambitious competitors through outdated rules that no longer match the modern sports landscape. They are trying to place a rapidly growing and influential sport inside a narrow corporate framework, and the pressure is beginning to expose major cracks. Looking ahead, the biggest question remains: how will players respond to this defining moment of unity? Will athletes across different teams come together and demand major changes to the league's disciplinary policies? Or will the financial power of the commissioner's office successfully discourage further resistance? The outcome could shape the direction of professional women's basketball for years to come. Fans have already shown their frustration, rejecting what they see as a carefully controlled version of the story being presented by league leadership. Now the decision belongs to the administration. They can continue with aggressive financial punishment, or they can choose transparency, accountability, and genuine respect for the athletes who built this platform. The entire sports world is watching this historic clash, and the opportunity for a calm resolution is becoming smaller every day. Every move made by the commissioner's office will face intense global attention, and no amount of public relations messaging can hide the reality of how the league treats its most valuable players. If athletes cannot honestly discuss what happens on the court without risking an entire game's salary, then what is this front office truly defending? Is it protecting the real integrity of women's basketball, or simply preserving the image of corporate leadership? Those direct and emotional words spread throughout the media room, creating massive reactions across the sports world and setting the stage for a historic institutional conflict. Welcome back to the ultimate destination for passionate women's basketball supporters, where we don't just accept polished box scores, but take a deeper look at the hidden conflicts, front office decisions, and administrative choices affecting the elite players we watch every night. The crisis unfolding now has completely disrupted the traditional expectations of professional sports as the league office attempts to demand full compliance through an aggressive financial punishment system. The timeline of this response tells the entire story. It began with a $25,000 fine issued on a tense Tuesday morning after those intense post-game remarks about officiating differences. When players refused to retreat, officials increased the punishment to a major $50,000 administrative fine within 48 hours, pointing toward unclear rules involving the league's public reputation. Then, in a decision that shocked many across the sports world, the commissioner's office delivered a historic $100,000 joint fine while warning of possible additional suspensions if athletes continued discussing internal league matters. Before we uncover the hidden details and explain how these exact penalties connect to a much larger strategy, make sure to subscribe, turn on notifications, and join our growing community of fans who refuse to let powerful voices in the game be silenced. The difference becomes impossible to ignore when comparing how other major sports organizations respond to internal criticism versus the way this current league situation is unfolding. While the NBA regularly releases official last 2-minute reports, admits officiating mistakes, and promotes greater transparency, many top European soccer leagues allow serious discussions and managerial disagreements without threatening the financial future of their biggest stars. Instead of encouraging that same openness, the WNBA front office has chosen to punish public criticism with a historic $100,000 financial penalty while appearing far more forgiving towards serious physical incidents during games. Consider the recent high-profile moments where players were forcefully pushed out of bounds or involved in dangerous non-basketball plays that resulted in nothing more than a common foul or a limited league response. Why is an athlete's honest opinion treated as a threat to the sport's survival, while clear physical risks to players are pushed aside with little concern? Fans around the world are refusing to ignore this contradiction, as shown by a rapidly growing online petition gaining thousands of passionate supporters. If you believe athletes deserve the freedom to speak honestly and the protection they need on the court, share your thoughts in the comments below, hit that like button, and subscribe for more updates and deeper conversations about the future of women's basketball.